Have you ever looked around and thought, this wasn't supposed to be my life? Maybe you've worked hard, made all the right choices, followed the plan you thought would bring happiness, and yet somehow things still fell apart. A relationship ended, a job you counted on vanished, life shifted in a direction you never expected. And you're left wondering, why is this happening? What did I do wrong? But here's a thought. What if nothing went wrong? What if this moment, no matter how confusing or painful, is not the end of your story, but the beginning of something deeper? You see, life doesn't always come with clarity. It rarely gives us clean answers in the moment. Often, it feels like we're walking through fog, unable to see more than a few steps ahead. But just because you can't see the meaning yet, doesn't mean it isn't there. In Buddhism, there's a simple yet profound truth. Nothing happens by accident. That idea might challenge you, especially if you're going through something hard right now. But think about this. How many times in your life has a difficult season ended up teaching you something you never would have learned otherwise? Maybe it gave you strength, perspective, compassion, a completely new direction. Loss, failure, even chaos, they aren't punishments. They're part of the process. And I know that's not always comforting, especially when you're still in the middle of the storm. But what if every challenge you face is an invitation, a doorway, not to give up, but to go deeper, to see what you're made of, to uncover something within yourself that you didn't know was there? Because sometimes the universe doesn't give us what we want. It gives us what we need to wake up, to grow, to change. There's an old saying that goes, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. In life, those teachers don't always show up in pleasant forms. Sometimes the teacher is heartbreak. Sometimes it's failure. Sometimes it's that quiet, aching question, what now? But hidden inside each of those moments is something sacred, a chance to return to yourself, to ask not just, why is this happening to me, but what is life trying to show me? This video is not here to give you all the answers, but it is here to offer something that many of us need, especially right now. Perspective, a reminder that even when life doesn't make sense, it may still be unfolding exactly as it should. We're going to explore how to trust life again, how to move through pain without being consumed by it, how to stop running from the hard moments and start growing through them. So, if you've ever felt like you're lost, broken, or stuck in a chapter you didn't ask for, I invite you to stay. Because sometimes the cracks in your story aren't signs of failure. They're where the light comes in. Let's begin. Let's talk about something we all face, suffering. It shows up in so many forms: heartbreak, loss, failure, illness, disappointment. No one escapes it. At some point, life touches us with pain, and often when we least expect it. But here's something we rarely hear. It's not the pain itself that defines us. It's what we do with it. It's how we interpret it. Two people can go through the same kind of loss. One grows wiser and stronger, while the other remains stuck in bitterness. Why? Because the experience is only half the story. The other half is perspective. In Buddhism, suffering isn't seen as a punishment. It's not a cruel trick from the universe or some cosmic mistake. It's actually viewed as a teacher, a hidden guide, sometimes a harsh one, but always one with a message. The truth is, some of the most powerful lessons in life don't come wrapped in joy. They come through the things that break us open. Think of gold. It doesn't become pure without going through fire. In the same way, hardship refines us. It strips away what isn't essential. It forces us to confront what we usually avoid: our fears, our attachments, our illusions. We often ask, why is this happening to me? But maybe the deeper question is, what is this trying to reveal within me? The pain we resist tends to linger, but the pain we're willing to observe,
without fear, without judgment, that's the pain that transforms us. There's a beautiful Buddhist story that illustrates this. A student once came to his master, overwhelmed by how unfair life felt. Everything seemed to be going wrong. He couldn't find peace. He couldn't stop the bitterness. The master asked him to bring a handful of salt and mix it into a glass of water. "Drink," he said. The student did, and immediately grimaced. "It's too bitter." Then the master brought him to a lake. "Now," he said, "throw the same handful of salt into the lake and drink." The student cupped some water, took a sip, and smiled. "It tastes fresh." The master said, "Suffering is like the salt. It's always the same, but the difference is the container you put it in. If all you have is a glass, even a little suffering will overwhelm you. But if you expand your perspective, you create space." That story stayed with me, because it's true. When we focus only on our pain, it consumes every corner of us. But when we widen our view, we start to see beyond the hurt. We begin to ask, how can I grow from this? What is life trying to teach me? Sometimes, what looks like a curse in the moment becomes a blessing in hindsight. A job loss may lead to a more meaningful path. A breakup may open the door to self-love. A failure might awaken a strength we never knew we had. This doesn't mean we should chase suffering, but when it arrives, as it inevitably will, we don't have to collapse under its weight. We can sit with it, learn from it, let it shape us, not destroy us. Because every pain, every challenge, every difficult season carries a hidden gift. And when we stop running from it, when we meet it with courage and curiosity, that's when healing begins. So the next time you're in pain, remember the salt and ask yourself, can I become the lake? Let's keep going.
There's a question we've all asked at some point in life. Why is this happening to me? It usually comes in the middle of chaos, when everything feels like it's falling apart. A relationship ends, a job disappears, life takes a sharp left turn, and suddenly the ground beneath us no longer feels stable. But what if we asked a different question? What if, instead of why me, we asked, what is this here to teach me? That small shift in perspective, from resistance to reflection, can open the door to profound transformation. Because here's the truth most of us learn only in hindsight. The moments we once labeled as disasters often turn out to be the turning points. The breakup that broke your heart, maybe it led you to rediscover who you are outside of someone else. The job you lost, maybe it pushed you toward a path that finally felt meaningful. The failure that humiliated you, maybe it taught you humility, resilience, and strength. Crisis shakes us. It disrupts our plans, but it also interrupts the patterns that are no longer serving us. We don't grow when everything is easy. We grow when we're stretched, when we're tested, when we're forced to look deeper and ask, what part of me needs to evolve? In Buddhism, suffering isn't seen as an enemy. It's seen as a catalyst, a mirror that shows us the places where healing still needs to happen, a teacher that invites us to wake up to what we've been ignoring. Think about a tree in a storm. The wind bends it, shakes it, even cracks its branches. But after the storm passes, it stands taller. Its roots have dug deeper into the earth. It's stronger, not in spite of the storm, but because of it. That's what hardship can do to us, if we let it. It's easy to fall into the trap of victimhood, to believe that life is simply unfair. But there's another way. We can choose to become students of our own experience. We can begin to ask, what is life revealing about me right now? What strength is this struggle building in me? What do I now see more clearly than before? The truth is, many of our most painful experiences come with hidden gifts, but they don't reveal themselves all at once. They unfold slowly as we move through grief, confusion, and eventually understanding. If you've ever looked back on a hard moment and said, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be who I am today, then you already know this truth. Crisis is not the end.
It's a beginning in disguise. We're not meant to avoid hardship. We're meant to learn how to use it. Every challenge is a classroom. Every difficulty is an invitation to rise. So next time you find yourself in the middle of a storm, don't just ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What is this waking up inside me?" That question won't make the pain vanish, but it will help you grow from it. And that growth may be the very thing that leads you to your next breakthrough. Let's keep walking.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment in life where everything seemed to fall apart, and yet later you realized that moment changed you forever? It's strange how that works, isn't it? The times that feel the most unstable, the most confusing, often become the very soil where our deepest growth begins. In fact, without chaos, there can be no transformation. We don't grow by staying comfortable. We don't evolve by clinging to what's safe. Real change, the kind that shakes your soul and rewrites your path, often begins when the life you once knew is disrupted. It's like a seed. Imagine placing a seed on a sunny windowsill. It has warmth, it has air, but nothing happens. Why? Because for that seed to grow, it must be buried in the dark. It must be pushed into the unknown. It must crack open, break apart, and struggle upward through the soil. It's only in that darkness that life begins. We're the same. Our personal storms, as uncomfortable as they are, often hold the very conditions we need to wake up, break open, and rise stronger. There's a beautiful story in Buddhist tradition about a butterfly. A disciple once noticed a butterfly struggling to break free from its cocoon. Wanting to help, he gently cut the cocoon open. The butterfly emerged, but its wings were weak. It never learned to fly. The master explained, "The struggle to escape the cocoon is what strengthens its wings. Without it, the butterfly can't soar." That story stays with me because we often want to remove the struggle. We want to make life easier. But in doing so, we rob ourselves of the very strength we're here to build. Resistance is what builds resilience. Tension is what builds transformation. It's not a flaw in the process, it is the process. So the next time your world feels like it's falling apart, pause. Ask not, "Why is this happening to me?" but instead, "What is this moment calling me to become?" Because the truth is, chaos doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to reveal you. It pushes you out of autopilot. It forces you to stop pretending everything's fine. It asks you to let go of what no longer serves you and make room for what's real. These moments, the ones that feel like everything's breaking, might actually be life rearranging itself for your growth. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's scary. But that's where the evolution begins. We think we're meant to stay the same, but nature tells a different story. The seasons change, the tides shift, the seed becomes a tree, the caterpillar becomes a butterfly. So why would we expect our lives to stay the same? Maybe what you're calling a breakdown is really a breakthrough. Maybe the disruption is the invitation to see differently, to live more fully, to trust more deeply, not in a perfect plan, but in your own ability to adapt and rise. So if you're in the middle of chaos right now, I want you to remember this. You're not lost. You're being reshaped. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're not breaking down. You're breaking through. Let's keep going. Have you ever had a moment where nothing made sense, but somehow, looking back, everything fell into place? Maybe something ended when you didn't want it to, or life felt delayed, like your dreams were stuck behind some invisible wall. But later, weeks, months, even years down the line, you realized that detour had a purpose, that timing was perfect, that pain held wisdom. There's an idea in Buddhism that speaks to this quiet intelligence behind life. It's called Dharma.
Now, Dharma isn't about fate or being passive. It's not a cosmic script we're forced to follow. It's the natural order, the deep flow of life, the invisible current that connects all things, always moving, always guiding, even when we can't see where it's taking us. In Dharma, there are no accidents. Everything, even the things we label as wrong turns or mistakes, happens for a reason, at exactly the right time. It might sound idealistic, but think about nature. The seasons never rush. The river doesn't question its path. The tree doesn't complain that it isn't blooming in winter. They all follow a rhythm, not one they control, but one they trust. There's a story in Buddhist tradition that captures this so beautifully. A man was caught in a violent storm at sea. He fought hard against the waves, trying to swim his way back to shore. The harder he struggled, the more exhausted he became, until finally he had no strength left. And in that moment of surrender, something shifted. He stopped fighting the current and let himself float, and slowly, the ocean carried him home. That's Dharma. It's not about giving up, it's about letting go of resistance. It's about trusting that sometimes life is carrying us exactly where we need to go, even if it's not the direction we had in mind. So much of our suffering comes not from what's happening, but from the way we fight it. We want things to happen now. We want answers. We want guarantees. But Dharma reminds us, you can't force a flower to bloom before its time. You can't demand the sunrise just because you're ready for morning. The same is true for your life. There's a right time for everything, for things to begin, for things to end, for silence, for movement, for loss, for growth. And when something leaves, it's not always a mistake. When something is delayed, it's not always denial. Sometimes it's preparation. I know how hard that can be to believe, especially when you're waiting, grieving, or wondering why something hasn't happened yet. But just because you don't see the order doesn't mean it's not there. Often, it's only in hindsight that we understand why the door had to close, why the plan had to change, why the timing didn't work out. So the next time life feels uncertain, ask yourself, what if this delay is protecting me? What if this ending is creating space for something better? What if what's happening now is exactly what needs to happen next? Dharma isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It whispers through the unfolding of your life, in patterns, in pauses, in the lessons that keep showing up again and again. When we learn to trust that invisible order, something shifts. We stop living in fear. We stop forcing what isn't ready. We begin to move in harmony with life, not against it. And that is where peace begins. Let's keep walking.
From the time we're young, we're taught a very familiar story. Work hard, make a plan, stick to the plan. And if you do everything right, life will go the way you want it to. It's comforting, isn't it? The idea that if we just stay in control our careers, our relationships, our future, we can avoid pain, avoid failure, avoid chaos. But then life steps in and rewrites the script. A relationship ends, a job disappears, a dream doesn't unfold the way we imagined. And suddenly, no matter how tightly we were holding the wheel, it feels like we're being carried somewhere we never meant to go. Have you ever been there? That moment when all your careful planning feels useless and you're left wondering, did I do something wrong? Or is control itself just an illusion? There's an old Buddhist story that speaks to this truth. A powerful king once asked his advisors why life was so unpredictable. One said, it's all luck. Another said, it's your karma. But the third advisor didn't answer with words. Instead, he led the king to a river and said, try to stop it. The king knelt down and pressed his hands into the water, but no matter what he did, it kept flowing through his fingers. The harder he tried, the faster it slipped away. Finally, the advisor said, life is like this river. You can try to control it, but in the end, it will always flow as it must. The only choice you really have is to learn how to move with it. That story struck something deep in me.
Because how often do we exhaust ourselves trying to force life into the shape we want? We say, I'll be happy when I reach this goal, when life looks like this, when nothing changes. But life doesn't listen to those conditions. It has its own rhythm, and that rhythm doesn't revolve around our expectations. So how do we live wisely in a world we can't fully control? The answer, in ancient Taoist and Buddhist wisdom, is Wu Wei, a practice that means non-forcing or effortless action. Now, Wu Wei doesn't mean doing nothing. It's not passive. It means taking action, but in harmony with the flow of life. It's learning when to move and when to be still, when to hold on and when to let go. Think of a skilled surfer. They don't fight the ocean. They read the wave, feel its rhythm, and align their body with its movement. That's Wu Wei. That's living in harmony. When we stop forcing outcomes, when we stop resisting every twist and turn, something incredible happens. We find peace in uncertainty. We become flexible. We adapt. We flow, not because life is easy, but because we've stopped trying to grip it so tightly. So today, if you're facing uncertainty, if your plans aren't unfolding the way you hoped, I invite you to ask, what if I let go? Just a little. What if I trusted that life knows more than I do right now? What would it look like to move with the current instead of against it? You don't have to control everything. You never really could. But you can learn to dance with the river. And that might just be the most powerful action of all. Let's keep flowing. Let's be honest. Life rarely goes exactly as planned. One moment, everything feels stable, and the next, a job disappears, a relationship changes, a new challenge appears out of nowhere. And just like that, the ground beneath us feels less solid. Uncertainty arrives, uninvited. Most of us have been taught to fear it, to resist it. We're told that security and control are the keys to happiness. But what if peace doesn't come from eliminating uncertainty? What if it comes from learning how to live with it? Buddhism reminds us that change is the only constant. No season lasts forever. No moment stays still. And trying to cling to certainty in a constantly shifting world only creates suffering. There's a story from Buddhist tradition that illustrates this beautifully. A monk lived alone on a mountaintop. One day, a villager ran up the path shouting, "Master, a great storm is coming. You have to leave now or you'll die." The monk looked at the sky, then gently replied, "If the storm comes, I will welcome it." The villager was confused. "But Master, you could be swept away." The monk smiled and said, "If I die, I accept death. If I live, I accept life. Whatever happens, I will accept it." Now, that might sound extreme, but the message isn't about being careless or passive. It's about letting go of the fear of what we can't control. Because fear doesn't come from the unknown. It comes from doubting our ability to face it. But here's the truth. You've already survived every challenge life has thrown your way. You've made it through storms you thought would break you. And maybe, just maybe, uncertainty isn't your enemy. Maybe it's an invitation to surrender, to trust, to come home to the present moment. Ask yourself this. How many times has something that seemed terrible at first turned out to be a blessing in disguise? How often have your greatest breakthroughs come from things that didn't go according to plan? Sometimes losing a job opens the door to your true calling. Sometimes a heartbreak brings you back to yourself. Sometimes a delay turns out to be divine timing. But we only see these truths when we stop clinging to what should have been and open to what is. So if you're in a season of uncertainty right now, if life feels unclear, unstable, or unfamiliar, I invite you to sit with a few questions. Am I missing the present moment because I'm too focused on a future that hasn't happened? What would it feel like to stop resisting and start trusting? Because peace doesn't come from knowing exactly what's next. It comes from knowing that whatever comes, you will meet it fully, with presence and strength. It comes from learning to breathe in the middle of the unknown, to soften, even when your plans fall apart, to remember you don't have to have all the answers to keep going. The ocean is vast and unpredictable, but the boat still floats. The waves will rise and fall, but if you learn to move with them, they won't drown you. So today, let this be your gentle reminder. You don't need certainty to be at peace. You just need trust, not in the outcome, but in yourself. You're stronger than you know, and the unknown might not be a threat. It might be the place where something beautiful is waiting to unfold. Let's keep breathing through it, together.
What if I told you that every challenge you face, every heartbreak, every setback, every uncertain step isn't pulling you away from your purpose, but guiding you toward it? We often think of awakening or enlightenment as some far-off destination, a rare achievement reserved for monks on mountaintops or sages in silence. But what if awakening is not a moment you wait for, but a path you walk every single day? What if it's already happening through everything you're going through? Because here's the truth. Every struggle holds a lesson. Every experience, even the painful ones, offers a doorway back to yourself. Think about the hardest moment in your life, the one you thought would break you. Now ask yourself, did it also reveal something? A strength you didn't know you had, a truth you were avoiding, a new path you never would have taken otherwise. You see, life doesn't ask us to be perfect. It asks us to be present, to pay attention, to stop asking, why is this happening to me, and begin asking, what is this trying to teach me? That shift in perspective is the beginning of awakening. When we see challenges not as punishments but as teachers, everything changes. We stop fighting reality, we stop clinging to how things should be, and we start showing up for how things are. In Buddhism, it's often said that suffering is not the enemy, unconsciousness is. We suffer most not from what happens to us, but from the stories we tell about it. We say, I failed, but maybe what happened was you learned. We say, it's the end, but maybe it's actually a beginning. The path to awakening doesn't come in a flash of lightning. It comes in moments of deep honesty. It comes when you sit with your pain and listen to what it's trying to say. It comes when you stop running and start feeling. It's easy to admire others who seem wise or peaceful and think they've figured it out. But they haven't escaped suffering. They've simply learned how to relate to it differently. And you can too. So here's a question worth holding on to. What if life isn't happening to you, but for you? What if everything, the joy, the loss, the confusion, the clarity, is part of your unique unfolding? Awakening isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been, beneath the fear, beneath the noise, beneath the pressure to be something else. It's about returning to presence, returning to compassion, returning to truth. And that return begins now. Not tomorrow, not after you've healed, not after things are perfect, but now, in this breath, in this moment. Because this moment, however imperfect, is your teacher, and you, just as you are ready. So the next time life feels heavy, instead of asking, why me? Try asking, what is life inviting me to see here? That one question could change everything. This isn't the end of your journey. It's another step forward, another layer peeled back, another glimpse of the light that's always been inside you. Let's keep walking, gently, curiously, together. As we come to the end of this reflection, I want to leave you with one simple truth. Nothing is meaningless. Not the pain, not the detours, not even the moments that felt like a complete collapse. Everything you've been through, every joy, every heartbreak, every pause and push has shaped you, not into someone else, but into yourself. You see, we often think the journey of life is about becoming something greater, but maybe, just maybe, it's about returning to who we were all along. Through all the noise, through all the striving, through all the questioning, we're slowly remembering what really matters. We're learning to let go of what's not ours to carry.
We're discovering that peace doesn't come from control, but from trust. That strength doesn't come from perfection, but from presence. And that our greatest teacher, it's not a book, not a guru, it's our life, exactly as it is. Every moment, even the ones we'd rather erase, is part of a bigger story. A story of becoming, of awakening, of remembering that we were never broken, just unfolding. So if you've taken anything from this journey, maybe it's a new way of seeing your struggles, or a new question to ask when life feels heavy, or simply the comfort of knowing you're not alone. Then this has all been worth it. Because this isn't just a video, it's a conversation, a shared space for reflection, and you, just by being here, are part of that. So I'd love to hear from you. What part of this journey spoke to you most? What lesson or story lingered in your heart? Maybe it was a moment of quiet truth. Maybe it was a single line that helped you breathe again. Maybe it was just the reminder that healing isn't a race and awakening isn't a destination. Whatever it was, share it in the comments below. Your insight might be the exact message someone else needs to hear today, and your story could become someone else's light. Let this be a place where we don't pretend to have all the answers, but where we dare to ask better questions, where we hold space for each other's growth, where we remember again and again that even in uncertainty, we are on the path. No step is wasted, no experience is lost. Everything belongs. So wherever you are in your journey, whether you feel clear or confused, broken or blooming, know this: you are exactly where you need to be, not because everything is perfect, but because you're present. And that presence is enough. Thank you for walking this path with me. Thank you for showing up, for yourself, and for this shared moment. I hope you'll stay connected. Subscribe if you'd like to keep exploring these conversations. And most of all, keep listening to your life. It's always speaking, even in silence. Until next time, be kind to yourself, be curious, and keep walking with wonder.